Hi guys, I've got some really cool wines to share with you today. So I've got the premium Chardonnay and Pinot Noir from Bass Phillip. I've got their estate Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and I've got a Chardonnay and Pinot Noir from Burgundy. And there's something that all of these wines have in common, and it's not the same grape varieties. So this producer is a guy called Jean-Marie Fourrier, and as of 2020, he actually now owns Bass Phillip, but he's one of the top producers over in Burgundy. And if you know your Burgundies, you know that Burgundy produces exceptional Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And the producer that you're probably very familiar with over there or have heard about is DRC, so Domaine de la Romney Conti. They produce some of the most expensive wines in the world, but there's actually another producer that had built up a similar reputation to DRC, and his wines actually command very similar prices. They're really rare, really collectible. His name is Henri Jayer, and Jean-Marie Fourrier actually trained under him. So one of the best Burgundian producers over there. And when we think about the hierarchy in Burgundy, we start out with your regional appellations. So these are basically wines or grapes that come from all over Burgundy. And generally on the label, you'll see Burgundy. So these ones actually are your regional level. So we've got the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir. But although they're entry level to Jean-Marie Fourrier's portfolio, and they are a regional, not technically, but they are a regional wine, they're anything but entry level, and they're not your typical regional wines. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. But the next layer up is your commune wines. So these are wines that actually have the appellation on the label. So you'll see something like Von Romani, Meursault. So that's your next level up. And when we think about the very top level, we're talking about your cru level producers and vineyard sites. So these are your Premier and Grand Cru, and Jean-Marie Fourrier is actually a cru level producer. And the reason why I say that these are not just entry level and not just regional is the grapes actually don't come from all over Burgundy. They don't come from a specific commune, which is why they say Bourgogne on the label. But they actually come from a vineyard site in between two of the best communes over in Burgundy, which are Meursault and Poligny-Montrachet. So really exceptional Burgundy wines, and definitely a foot into a fantastic producer. Very similar on the Bass Phillip side, you have the sort of entry level, which is the estate Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Again, anything but entry level. These are some of the best wines in Australia, and certainly some of the best Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And then you have the premium Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Now the premium has actually built up an incredible reputation. It's part of the Langton's classification, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's essentially, in order to be part of that, you have to have built up at least 10 years of being a collector favorite and also performing well on the secondary market, so in auction sales. So these two, the Chardonnay, premium premium Pinot Noir, are part of the Langton's classification. But the estate Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, although they're your foot into the range of Bass Phillip, they're anything but entry level. And the reason why I say that across the entire range is these are both wines are made by an exceptional producer, but also they're all old vines. So we've got 1963 and 1979. And the reason why old vines produce such exceptional wines is because they don't produce as many grapes. So their yield is a lot lower, which basically means that when there's less grapes on the vine, that vine is pumping all of its resources into a lesser amount of grapes. So you get a higher level of flavor concentration. But with old vines, they've also had time to really settle into the ground. So it means that when they're pulling up those resources, we're not just building out that fruit flavor profile and having more concentrated fruit, we're actually having more concentrated flavor profile from the entire terroir. So that environment that grape is growing in, which means that these wines, I think, have a great reflection of place. And something that also really speaks to that is the fact that this producer is a biodynamic producer. So that's a step above sustainable vineyard management. Basically, biodynamic vineyard management is where we're looking at the vineyard site holistically. So instead of just reducing the amount of pesticides that we use, we're actually looking at the entire ecosystem and natural ways that we can balance that ecosystem. So if we have a pest in the vineyard site, we're not looking at a pesticide, we're actually looking at what are the other animals or plants that we can bring into the vineyard site to better balance that. And because of that, I think that approach combined with old vines, you have such a great reflection of place and terroir, which is what I love about wines. And if you haven't had a chance to try Bass Phillip or even the Burgundy, a little bit harder to take a trip over there, but I had the pleasure of tasting some Bass Phillip actually down in Melbourne at Cumulus Inc. because Bass Phillip don't actually have a cellar door. So you do have to taste their range, either buy a bottle or go down to Cumulus Inc. Fantastic vertical tasting. I love a vertical tasting because you get to actually see how the wines evolve. But I do think even though these are all cool climate, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, there's a different climate in Burgundy versus Victoria. So Burgundy is a continental climate. Gippsland, Victoria, where Bass Phillip is from, is actually a maritime climate. So it's got that cooling influence off the coast. But I think, as I said, with that biodynamic approach, with the old vines, with a fantastic producer, you're getting that real sense of place that comes through. And I love that. So if you like this video, give me a like, hit subscribe, and any questions, drop them in the comments. Cheers.